This is half now of strawberry shortcake. You wonder, what is it? Why would Mitch be holding strawberry shortcake in his hands? Well, when it's time to celebrate these days, that's how I do it. For a long time now, I've associated success and strawberry shortcake. So what is it that we're celebrating today? Well, Friday was the final, the 20th, I should say, perhaps not the final, but the 20th session for hyperbaric oxygen therapy that I underwent. I gotta tell you that hyperbarics was not on my radar a few months back, and I am thankful that today it is. What I'm wearing is my graduation present from Oxygen Oasis in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. And Oxygen Oasis came to me through extensive search that didn't happen in the very beginning of my process. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Back in August, I had an accident where I experienced some hearing loss at a certain frequency now, and along with that was the tinnitus or tinnitus that I currently have in my ears. So when this initially happened, I told myself that I would do anything to get rid of and to reverse the conditions brought about this accident that happened. And I was doing that. I went to an ENT here in Manhattan. I sought an audiologist to get hearing tests. I was put on an oral steroid regimen and was told to wait that out. But at that meeting the first time, the ENT mentioned something about hyperbaric oxygen. And while he said that he wasn't convinced that it would work, there was some documentation about it treating the conditions around the ear because of the pressurization and the 100% oxygen, that sometimes, in some cases, the hearing was restored. Well, and if not restored, at least improved. Well, that gives me a glimmer of hope back then, and I sought to get hyperbaric oxygen therapy up here in Manhattan. I live in Brooklyn. So I did that. Now, the documentation talks about a 2-week period where it's optimal for that to be most successful. And hyperbarics for sudden sensorineural hearing loss, I believe that's how you say it, you can check me on that, is not all that covered by your insurance. So there's an expense to hyperbarics, and there was a lot of outside noise, if you will, going on at the time that I was trying to complete this 2-week window, so to speak. And as time pressed on, the more panics I felt about, oh, this is never going to work. So I found oxygen therapy here in Manhattan, and they used what they call now, I know, these mono chambers that create the environment for this hyperbarics to take place. It's 100% oxygen. You go down to a pressurized, you're pressurized in there like you're going in for a dive underwater. So I am extremely fearful and also claustrophobic. If you've ever been to an MRI and have felt the panic of that enclosed sense, even though it's open on either end, you kind of know where I'm coming from. Or if you did hyperbarics and you couldn't go through it in that mono chamber, you definitely know where I'm coming from. It was very difficult. And when I couldn't successfully get through that, I felt hopeless, I felt despair, I felt discouraged. There were really dark places that I don't care to admit to that I went to as a result of what I thought was failure. Well, I felt failure in that whatever you can do to fix this, you know, and I couldn't even do that. Well, time passed, and during that time, under the steroids and trying to manage everything at once, work, money, therapy, doctors, you name it, plus the sense of steroids, which are making me crazy, although I was working out like a fiend, but that's another story. I couldn't see past the small self. I couldn't see it. The searches I did on Google, everything to find help became more limited, more limited, more limited, with more fear that I was never going to get help. And I gave up hope. And I felt like it. And I'm pretty sure the people around me were feeling that too, because if you're feeling pretty hopeless, there's probably a chance that you're putting that out to the universe too. So to all you out there that put up with that in the beginning, and hopefully you're patient now, I apologize. So time passed, and I didn't want to quit. There was something in me that was driving me not to give up. And once that element of drive entered my environment again, if you will, once I allowed that to happen again, Oxygen Oasis came up as a search. Actually, I was put to them by University of Pennsylvania rather. University of Pennsylvania suggested this walk-in chamber for oxygen. And when I called Oxygen Oasis, this wonderful person who answered the telephone, Gabriella, gave me time. And she was patient, and she listened to everything that I had to say about this. And all she did was just create an environment for success. Just by listening, just by her empathy, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. So I decided that if there's one thing I needed to do for me, that was to focus on the one thing. I had already seen where I had failed by trying to do too much at once. And then I thought, do the one thing. If this is what it means to you, do the one thing. Don't go to work. For me, rent a car, travel the hour and a half it is to get to Langhorne from Brooklyn. Do this. Take the risk. And that's what I did. I focused on the one thing. I ate the same thing every day. If success was going to mean this body was going to be able to get through that, that's what I was going to do. So I do some odd things for success, but this was not one of them. When I began the therapy, I was still that scared, claustrophobic person who had failure in the mono chamber. And I was ushered gently through the process by Jason and Joe, who were the administrators of the therapy there in Oxygen Oasis. And they were the perfect people for me at that time. You know, there's that story or that saying that when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Well, sorry to get a little emotional, but in this case it was. They were just the right people for me at Oxygen Oasis. Joe had the hands on the wheel, so to speak, and Jason had the hands on this wheel as he guided me through the individual therapy to begin with. And I got to say that it wasn't easy going in the beginning. Again, I had to walk through fear and find a strategy that worked. And all the while, Jason was telling me that, you know, first, you're okay. And that became the voice that I was listening to. Because I will constantly catastrophize. This voice that goes on inside my head that says, cut and run, get out of here now, is the one that I realized was just that. It was just the voice of fear, and there's a voice of success and desire and drive and, I don't know, a power greater than me, than that voice, that kept me going. And we came up with strategies where I could be successful, more so as time went on. And I was encouraged by all the people who went along with the dive alongside me, all the people who would step in. So Joe and Jason were the people who I was initially diving with, and Ken showed up, and Tom showed up, and the last few days Mackenzie was there, and all these people, the kindness and the compassion and the empathy, and boy, I almost don't want to stop, because you just keep wanting to go back to people who want to take care of you, and it was just a wonderful environment. Victoria down there, she put together this host of these complementary pieces. Not only is the physical environment wonderful, but you can tell from the top to the bottom how wonderful this place is. Now, there's a lot more I want to say about this, and I just don't have time, for one thing, but the point I want to make really is celebrate the things that you accomplish. Celebrate them, whatever means you have. For me, it's strawberry shortcake. It's me sharing this experience with you, because even though that cake is half eaten, the success would be a half a success if not shared to its extent, where I can reach out and let you know that should you be in need of treatment like this, Oxygen Oasis is a great place to go in Langhorne. I feel like it's a commercial, and I guess in some ways it is, but they were encouraging to me, and I know that they'll be encouraging to you and the ones that you love. Keep an open ear. Listen to people and be compassionate and be empathetic. See where it is and this is one of the lessons that I will take, see where I can make a difference. Where can I be more patient? How can I possibly give back that was given to me in order to feel that sense of success and accomplishment? So eat up. I'm going to go back and have some of this cake again, and I want to thank you for taking the time. This is pretty long here, but I didn't know other than to just say thank you. I wanted to share the experience of hope along with you. Thanks so much for spending a little bit of the time with me. Oxygen Oasis, Langhorne, Pennsylvania. Thanks, everybody.